My wife of 17 years slept with my brother since our wedding night. I ran a secret DNA test on all 3 kids, proved none of them are mine, and served divorce papers in front of her parents at our anniversary party. Now she's pregnant by her lover and homeless. I served my wife divorce papers at our 17th anniversary dinner in front of her parents, her sister, my parents, and 24 guests while she was mid-sentence telling everyone how blessed she was to have married her best friend. The papers were in a gift-wrapped box. She opened it thinking it was jewelry. It was a DNA report for all 3 of our children stapled to a divorce petition. None of them are mine. Not one. 17 years. 3 kids. 0 are my blood. The room went from champagne toast to cardiac silence in about 8 seconds. That's how long it took her to read the first page. I know because I counted. My name is Vance Keller. I'm 42. I was married to Sienna Keller for 17 years. I say it was because the divorce was finalized 6 weeks ago. She got nothing. I got everything. And the brother she'd been sleeping with since our wedding night is somewhere in a studio apartment trying to figure out how a man with no job and a pregnant girlfriend is going to survive on $0 in savings and the complete absence of anyone who cares. Let me go back to the beginning. Which isn't when I found out. It's when she started. Our wedding night. June 14, 2008. We got married at 4 p.m. Reception until 11. Hotel suite booked for the night. I carried her across the threshold. We fell asleep at 1 a.m. I woke up at 3 a.m. Sienna wasn't in bed. Her phone wasn't on the nightstand. I figured she was in the bathroom. Went back to sleep. She was next to me when I woke up at 7. 17 years later I found out she spent that hour with my brother Perry in a room 2 floors down. Room 614. Our wedding night. While I slept in a bed we were supposed to share for the first time as husband and wife, she was 2 floors below me with the best man. Perry is 39. 3 years younger than me. We grew up close. Same crew. Same school. Same everything. He was charming in the way that charming people are. The kind where you don't realize the charm is a tool until it's been used on you. Perry was the best man at my wedding. He gave a toast that made my mother cry. He said, "Vance is the kind of man who makes you want to be better. Sienna, you didn't just find a husband. You found the best person I've ever known. I'm proud to call him my brother." 4 hours later he was in room 614 with my bride. I didn't know for 17 years. How do you not know for 17 years? I'll tell you how. You trust. You go to work. You come home. You build a life. You change diapers. You coach soccer. You attend parent-teacher conferences. You work 55-hour weeks to pay for a house and 3 kids and a wife who tells you she loves you every night before bed. You don't know because you're too busy building to notice the building is on fire. The kids. I need to talk about the kids because they're the center of this. Kate is 16. I was in the delivery room. Cut the cord. Named him after my grandfather. Regan is 13. Premature. 6 weeks early. I slept in a hospital chair for 9 nights next to an incubator. Talked to her through the glass. Told her she was strong. Told her I'd be there when she came out. Jonah is 9. He looks the least like me. People mentioned it over the years. He's darker. Different bone structure. My mother said once, he must take after Sienna's side. I agreed because why wouldn't I? All 3. Every one. Perry's. 16 years of fatherhood. 13 years. 9 years. None of it was real. Biologically. Every birthday party. Every school pickup. Every bedtime story. Every time one of them said dad. None of it was genetically true. I was performing the role of a father for children who belonged to my brother. And he sat at my dinner table every holiday watching me raise them. Here's how I found out. Jonah needed a blood test for a school medical form. Routine. The pediatrician ran the panel and flagged something. Jonah's blood type is AB negative. The rarest type. Less than 1% of the population. My blood type is O positive. Sienna's is A positive. 2 parents with those blood types cannot produce an AB negative child. Impossible. Not unlikely. Impossible. Biology 101. The pediatrician called me. He said, "Mr. Keller, there may be an error on the form. Jonah's blood type doesn't match the parental blood types we have on file. Could you confirm yours and your wife's types?" I confirmed. O positive. A positive. He went quiet. Then he said, "I'd recommend a follow-up. There's a discrepancy that should be addressed." He didn't say what I already knew. He didn't have to. Blood type doesn't lie. And O positive plus A positive doesn't make AB negative. Not in any combination. Not ever. I didn't confront Sienna. I went to a lab. Paid $279 for a DNA test. Swabbed Jonah while he slept. Swabbed myself. Results in 5 business days. Day 6. Email. Results ready. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. I stared at that number for 20 minutes. Then I did what any man in my position would do if he's methodical and patient and very, very angry. I tested the other 2. Kate. Swabbed from a water glass he left on the counter. $279. 0.00%. Regan. Swabbed from her toothbrush. $279. 0.00%. 3 tests. $837 total. 0 matches. Not one of my children is my child. I sat in my truck in the parking lot of the lab and felt the last 17 years reorganize themselves. Every memory. Every milestone. Every I love you, Dad, from a child who wasn't mine. Every holiday where Perry sat across from me eating food I paid for and smiling at kids he'd fathered in secret. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Something in me went cold. Mechanical. The same way I am on a job site when something goes wrong. Assess the damage. Identify the cause. Build the fix. I called my attorney. A man named Shepard. Curtis Shepard. Done my business contracts for 8 years. Sharp. Direct. No wasted words. I said, Shepard. My wife has been having an affair with my brother. All 3 of my kids aren't mine. DNA confirmed. I need a divorce and I need it planned. He said, planned how? I said, I want to serve her at our anniversary dinner. 6 weeks from now. 24 guests. Her parents. My parents. Everyone who needs to see this. He said, that's aggressive. I said, she's been sleeping with my brother since our wedding night. 17 years. 3 kids that aren't mine. Aggressive is the starting point. He said, I'll draft the petition. What else? I said, I want the house. The retirement accounts. Full financial separation. She gets nothing beyond what the law requires. He said, the children. Are you seeking custody? That question hit me like a truck axle. The children. The 3 children who aren't mine biologically. Who call me dad. Who I've raised for 16, 13, and 9 years. Who don't know that the man they love isn't their father. I said, I need to think about that. He said, take your time. But not too much. The petition needs to be filed before the dinner. 6 weeks. I had 6 weeks to prepare the end of a 17-year marriage. To plan the detonation. To wrap divorce papers in gift paper and hand them to the woman who'd been lying to me since the first night we were married. During those 6 weeks I did 4 things. 1. I separated finances. Joint savings, $62,000. I withdrew $31,000. My half. New account. New bank. Moved my direct deposit. Moved my business account. Changed every password Sienna had access to. 2. I documented. Phone records. 17 years of cell phone bills. I subpoenaed them through Shepard. The records showed a pattern. Calls to Perry's number. Every week. Sometimes 4 times a week. Text messages that the carrier confirmed but couldn't produce content for. The volume alone told the story. 3,800 calls and texts to Perry in 17 years. 3. I recorded. Not conversations. Evidence. I installed a dashcam in Sienna's car. Legal in our state. The car is in my name. The dashcam captured 3 trips to Perry's apartment in 2 weeks. Average visit, 2 hours 15 minutes. During school hours. While I was at work. While the kids were in class. 4. I planned the anniversary dinner. Our 17th. June 14th. Same date as the wedding. Sienna loves celebrations. I booked a restaurant. 24 guests. Family. Close friends. Her parents drove from 3 hours away. My parents were there. Perry was invited. Because I needed him in the room. The box. I bought a jewelry box. Mahogany. Lined with velvet. The kind you'd put a necklace in. I put the DNA reports inside. All 3. Kate. Regan. Jonah. Each one showing 0.00%. On top of the reports I placed the divorce petition. Wrapped the box in gold paper. Tied it with a ribbon. Anniversary dinner. Saturday. June 14th. 17 years to the day. The restaurant was perfect. Private room. Long table. Candles. Wine. Everyone dressed up. Sienna wore the dress I bought her last Christmas. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. That was never the problem. The dinner lasted 2 hours before I made my move. Toasts were happening. Sienna's father went first. Said he was proud of us. 17 years is a blessing. My mother went next. Said we were the foundation of the family. Then Sienna stood up. Glass in hand. She said, I want to thank everyone for being here. 17 years ago I married my best friend. She looked at me. Eyes shining. He gave me 3 beautiful children, a beautiful home, and a life I never dreamed I'd have. I'm the luckiest woman alive. I waited for her to finish. She sat down. Everyone clapped. I stood up. I said, before we go any further, I have something for Sienna. I picked up the box. Gold paper. Ribbon. Walked around the table. Placed it in front of her. She smiled. She said, Vance. You didn't have to. I said, open it. She untied the ribbon. Pour the paper. Opened the mahogany box. Saw the first page. The DNA report. Vance Keller. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Her face stopped working. Like someone unplugged her from the inside. She flipped to the second page. Regan. 0.00%. Third page. Jonah. 0.00%. Under the reports. The divorce petition. Filed. Stamped. Ready. The room was watching. 24 people. Her parents. My parents. Harry. Everyone. I said, 17 years. Since our wedding night. Room 614. I know about Perry. I know about all of it. None of those children are mine. Every DNA test came back 0. You've been sleeping with my brother since the first night of our marriage and letting me raise his children while he watched from across the table. Sienna said, Vance. Please. Not here. I said, you did it here. Every holiday. Every dinner. Every time Perry sat in my house and ate my food and played with kids he knew were his. You did it here. In front of everyone. For 17 years. The least you can do is hear the truth in the same room. Her mother stood up. She said, what is this? What's happening? I said, your daughter has been sleeping with my brother Perry for 17 years. Since the night of our wedding. All 3 children are his. I have the DNA tests. They're in the box. Her mother sat back down. Her father didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared at the tablecloth like it held instructions for what to do when your daughter's marriage explodes in front of you. Perry was at the end of the table. I looked at him. I said, Perry. Anything to say? He stood up. His chair scraped the floor. He said, Vance. It's not what? I said, don't. Don't say it's not what I think. I have 3 DNA tests that say 0.00%. I have 3,800 calls and texts. I have dashcam footage of Sienna at your apartment 3 times in 2 weeks. Don't insult me by lying again. You've been doing it for 17 years. Take the night off. Perry left. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't look at Sienna. Just walked out. The same way cowards leave every room they've destroyed. Quietly. Without cleaning up. My mother was crying. She said, Vance. Is this true? All 3 kids? I said, all 3. 0 match. Perry is the biological father. My father stood up. Walked to me. Put his hand on my shoulder. Didn't say a word. Just stood there. The way fathers do when words aren't enough and presence is all they have. Sienna's parents left 10 minutes later. Didn't speak to me. Didn't speak to Sienna. Just left. Her father put $200 on the table for the meal. Old school. Paid the tab. Walked out. The room cleared in 20 minutes. 24 guests. Most of them hugged me on the way out. 2 of Sienna's friends cried. One of my friends, a guy named Briggs, shook my hand and said, 17 years. You kept it together for 6 weeks knowing this. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. Sienna was still sitting at the table. Box open. Report spread out. Mascara running. She said, can we talk about this at home? I said, that's not your home anymore. Shepard filed a motion for exclusive possession this morning. You have 72 hours to remove your personal belongings. She said, you can't kick me out of my own house. I said, the house is in my name. Purchased with my income. My down payment. My mortgage payments. You contributed household labor, which the court will consider, but the house stays with me. Shepard already confirmed it. She said, what about the kids? The question I'd been carrying for 6 weeks. The one that kept me up at night. The one Shepard asked me to decide. I said, I'm not abandoning the kids. I raised them. They're mine in every way that matters except biology. But I will not be listed as the biological father on any document. Perry will. He fathered them. He can take financial responsibility. I'll remain their custodial parent until and unless Perry files for custody. Which he won't. Because Perry doesn't finish anything he starts. Sienna said, you're going to tell them. I said, I'm going to tell them the truth. When they're ready. In the right way. With a therapist present. Not in a restaurant. Not in a box. The way it should be done. The way you should have told me 17 years ago instead of letting me raise another man's children while you slept with him every week. She said, I love you. I said, you love what I provide. You love the house. The income. The stability. The man who shows up and builds and doesn't ask questions. That's not love, Sienna. That's infrastructure. And you've been outsourcing the rest to Perry since room 614. I left. Drove home. My home. Sat in the kitchen. The kitchen where I cooked 6,000 meals for children who aren't mine. The kitchen where Sienna called me honey every morning while texting my brother from the bathroom. Shepard called the next morning. He said, Sienna retained an attorney. A woman named Foley. I said, Fast. He said, she's been planning this too. Foley called within 4 hours of the dinner. That means Sienna already had her number. Probably had her on retainer. I said, she had a divorce attorney on retainer while I was planning an anniversary dinner. He said, it appears so. I said, then she knew this was coming. Not the dinner. The end. She knew eventually I'd find out and she'd been preparing. Foley called Shepard. She said, my client wants the house, 50% of retirement, and primary custody of all 3 children. Shepard said, the children are not biologically your client's husbands. DNA proves this. The house is solely in Mr. Keller's name. The retirement accounts are primarily funded by Mr. Keller's income. Your client has been engaged in a 17-year affair with the husband's brother. We have call records, dashcam evidence, and 3 DNA reports showing 0% paternity. What exactly is your client's negotiating position? Foley said, my client maintained the household for 17 years. She raised the children. She contributed to the marriage. Shepard said, she contributed to the marriage by sleeping with his brother and passing off 3 children as his. That's not a contribution. That's fraud. We're prepared to file a paternity fraud claim which in this state carries civil liability. We're also prepared to pursue Perry Keller for 17 years of child support arrears. Would your client like to be a co-defendant in that filing? Foley called back the next day. She said, my client is willing to negotiate. Shepard called me. She wants to negotiate. I said, she gets her clothes. Her car. Her personal savings, which is approximately $4,300. She gets nothing else. The house stays. The retirement stays. Custody remains with me pending Perry's paternity establishment. If she fights, I file the fraud claim and Perry gets served with 17 years of retroactive child support. Foley called back in 3 hours. Client accepts. $4,300. That's what 17 years of lies got her. $4,300 and a black trash bag. The fallout moved fast. Perry's landlord found out through a mutual friend. Didn't renew his lease. Not for legal reasons. For personal ones. The landlord's wife said, I'm not renting to a man who slept with his brother's wife for 17 years. Find somewhere else. Perry moved to a studio apartment 40 minutes away. $950 a month. He makes $2,100 working at an auto body shop. After rent and food he has about $400 left. Child support hasn't been filed yet. When it does, for 3 children, he'll owe approximately $1,400 a month. That leaves him negative $1,050. Good luck with that math, Perry. Perry tried to fight. Because Perry always tries when the wall's close in. He called our cousin Wade and told his version. Said I ambushed Sienna at the dinner. Said I humiliated her in front of her parents. Said I was the cruel one. Wade called me. He said, Perry says you destroyed Sienna at the anniversary dinner. I said, did Perry mention the 17 years? The 3 kids. The DNA tests. The wedding night. Room 614. Wade went quiet. Then he said, he left that part out. I said, he would. Ask him about room 614. That was our wedding night. He was in a room 2 floors below me with my bride. While I slept. 17 years ago. Wade called Perry back. Called me 20 minutes later. He said, I asked about room 614. He hung up on me. That's all I needed to hear. I'm done with him. Perry posted on social media 3 days later. Didn't name me but made it obvious. Said he was going through a difficult time. Said people who judge don't know the full story. Said love is complicated. Briggs screenshot it. Sent it to our group chat. 8 guys. Nobody responded with sympathy. One guy, Devonte, wrote, love isn't complicated. You slept with your brother's wife for 17 years. That's not love. That's a crime scene. Perry deleted the post within 2 hours. But the screenshot exists. Filed it with Shepard. Everything gets filed. Sienna's sister Nadia called me a week after the dinner. She said, I want you to know I had no idea. Sienna never told me. I found out at the same time as everyone else. When she showed up at my door with a suitcase. I said, I believe you. She said, she's not doing well. She sits on the couch all day. Doesn't eat. Barely talks. She's 5 months pregnant and she looks like she's given up. I said, she had 17 years to tell the truth. She could have told me year 1. Year 5. Year 10. She had 6,200 days to choose honesty and she chose my brother instead. Every single day. I don't have sympathy left. I used it all raising kids I thought were mine. Nadia said, what about the kids? They miss her. I said, they can see her. I'm not keeping them from their mother. But she comes to them on my schedule. In my house. Supervised. Until the therapist says otherwise. Nadia said, you're being fair. More fair than she deserves. I said, I'm being fair because the kids didn't do this. They don't deserve to lose their mother because their mother lost their father. That line surprised me when it came out. Because I'd been so cold for so long that saying something compassionate felt like speaking a foreign language. Sienna moved in with her sister. A 2-bedroom apartment. Sleeping on a pull-out couch. The woman who spent 17 years in a 4-bedroom house with a backyard and a kitchen island is now sleeping on a pull-out in her sister's living room. 2 weeks after the dinner, Sienna announced she was pregnant. Again. Perry's. She'd found out 3 weeks before the anniversary dinner and hadn't told me. Another secret. Another baby that isn't mine. Another lie she was planning to bury under the foundation of our marriage. If I hadn't found Jonah's blood test results, she would have had that baby. Would have told me it was mine. Would have added a 4th child to the list of kids I raised for a brother who sat across from me at Thanksgiving and smiled. My parents have been solid. My mother calls every day. My father comes by on Saturdays. They've cut contact with Perry completely. My mother told him, "You're not my son anymore. You are the man who destroyed my son's family for 17 years while eating at my table. Don't call. Don't visit. Don't speak my name." Perry called my father and said, "Dad, please. I made a mistake." My father said, 17 years isn't a mistake. 17 years is a decision you made every single day. 6,200 days of choosing to betray your brother. That's not a mistake. That's a career. Sienna's parents haven't spoken to her since the dinner. Her father sent a text to her sister. It said, "Tell Sienna I paid $200 for that dinner. It was the most expensive meal of my life. And the last one I'll share with her." The kids. This is the hardest part. Cade knows. He's 16. Old enough. I told him with a family therapist present. His face went through about 12 expressions in 30 seconds. He said, "You're still my dad. Right?" I said, "I'm still your dad." He said, "Is Uncle Perry?" He stopped. He said, "Is Uncle Perry my real dad?" I said, "Biologically. Yes. But I raised you. I coached your team. I drove you to school. I built your bed frame. I'm your dad. Perry is a name on a report. I'm the person who showed up." He cried. I held him. 16 years old and finding out his life is a different shape than he thought. Regan and Jonah don't know yet. They're 13 and 9. The therapist said wait. Let them mature. Tell them when the questions start naturally. Don't force it. I'm not forcing it. I'm waiting. The way I waited 6 weeks before the anniversary dinner. Patient. Methodical. Precise. Last week Shepard filed the paternity claim against Perry. 3 children. 17 years of financial support I provided that should have been his responsibility. The filing requests retroactive child support, reimbursement for medical expenses, education costs, and a formal paternity establishment. Perry was served at the auto body shop. In front of his co-workers. He called my number. Blocked. Called Shepard. Shepard's assistant said, "Correspondence only. No phone calls." Perry hired a legal aid attorney. The attorney called Shepard. He said, "My client can't afford retroactive support for 17 years. He makes $2,100 a month." Shepard said, "Your client fathered 3 children over a 17-year period while allowing another man to raise and financially support them. The retroactive claim is based on documented expenses including housing, food, clothing, medical, education, and extracurricular activities. Conservative estimate, $340,000. The legal aid attorney said, $340,000. He can't pay that in 10 lifetimes. Shepard said, then he'll pay what the court orders for the rest of his working life. Welcome to fatherhood, Mr. Keller. It's been waiting for him for 17 years. Sienna is showing now. 5 months pregnant. Living on her sister's pull-out couch. No job. No savings. No husband. No house. Pregnant with the 4th child of a man who makes $2,100 a month and is about to be hit with a $340,000 paternity claim. She texted me once. Through a friend's phone because I blocked her number. She said, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I'm scared. I have nothing. I'm pregnant. Perry won't answer my calls. My parents won't speak to me. I'm sleeping on a couch. I don't know what to do." I didn't respond. Not because I'm cruel. Because every word in that text is a consequence, not a crisis. She's not a victim. She's a woman who lied for 17 years and ran out of people to lie to. Last night I sat in Cade's room. He was doing homework. Regan was watching TV downstairs. Jonah was in bed. I looked at Cade. Same kid I taught to ride a bike. Same kid I drove to his first day of school. Same kid who grabbed my hand crossing the street until he was 7 and then pretended he was too old for it. He's not my blood. I know that now. He's my son. I know that more. My brother slept with my wife since our wedding night. 17 years. 3 kids. 3,800 calls. Room 614. $837 in DNA tests. $4,300 in total settlement. $340,000 in paternity claims. The numbers tell the story. But the one that matters most isn't a dollar amount. It's 3. 3 kids who call me dad. 3 kids I chose. 3 kids I'm keeping. Not because biology says so. Because I showed up. Every day. For 17 years. And showing up is something Perry never learned how to do.